Hello. How are you? Hope you're well. I've just got back from holiday, and you know what it's like when you get back from holiday and you get the holiday blues because you miss the place so much. Yeah, I've had that. We've been back a week and it feels like forever. I even love it so much there that I've been looking at houses, so I'm trying to convince the husband to move. He's not taking a lot of convincing though, because he wants to go as well, so you never know, we might be actually living in Spain soon. Anyway, off topic. Back on topic, the video this week is about Menorca, but it's not a holiday video, it's not beaches and all of that, cocktails and stuff. It's spooky stuff. It's spooky and history and things I hope you'll find interesting. You go watch, I'll see you on the other side and then we can discuss it. Enjoy. In the heart of Mahon, Menorca's capital, there once stood a hospital known simply as Verge del Toro. Built decades ago, it served generations of patients, a place of healing, illness, and death. When it closed in 2007, the city welcomed a new modern hospital, and Verge del Toro was abandoned. Empty halls, peeling paint, flickering lights, and silent wards remained. Yet it was not just empty, it had become a place of fear. Locals say it started with small things. A door left unlocked when it should have been bolted. A shadow glimpsed at the end of a corridor. A chair moved from its place. Security guards who patrolled the building at night began reporting strange occurrences. Footsteps echoed across the abandoned hallways, though the building was empty. The heavy clatter of furniture dragged across the tile floors startled them, and flickering lights revealed fleeting figures that vanished before anyone could approach. One night, around November the 1st, 2007, the phenomenon escalated. Guards on duty heard laughter, deep, unnatural, and chilling, coming from the top floor. Police were called after reports of break-ins, but when they arrived, there was no one. Doors and windows were locked. Nothing had been stolen. The officers could only feel the suffocating weight of the hospital itself, a building soaked in decades of suffering, death, and despair. The stories continued. Staff and explorers reported disembodied whispers, cold drafts cutting across entire wings, and the oppressive sensation of being watched. Now, some swear that the hospital seems to know when someone is there. Shadows flitting across the walls, lights turning on by themselves, and sudden noises that make the hair on the back of your neck stand on end. Even today, Verge del Toro Hospital is abandoned, silent but alive with the memory of the sick and the dead. A place where past refuses to rest, and the corridors echo with the forgotten cries of those who have never left. Since visiting here myself, you can feel the darkness even in the bright sunshine. You can look up at the windows and wait for someone to look down. You get an unnatural feel, a presence, as if there was somebody in there looking at you, watching your every move. Now, this place and this story was on the Spanish news. there were so many people frightened of staying in there. Security guards, police wouldn't go in, and a police dog that refused to go up the stairs. So, whatever you think of the place, how beautiful it looks from the outside. It's such a grand building, and it looks great from the outside. There's no natural decay. It looks good. But inside is darkness, noises, and corridors that make your skin crawl. Torre den Garms is a large Paleolithic settlement located to the south of Menorca. It's located on a crest of a small hill that slopes gently to the south, with views over a large part of the southern side of the island. The mountains of the neighbouring island of Menorca can be seen from here on a clear day. During prehistoric times, a good number of Paleolithic villages were visible from here. The settlement was at its peak between 1200 BC and 200 BC, although there is evidence that the area was in use from around 2000 BC, and at least partially in use until the medieval Christian conquest in AD 1287. The dwellings from this period are characterised by their rounded shape, and for this reason they're also called circles. These are Menorcan prehistoric buildings which have been most extensively studied by archaeologists. The entrance to the house faces south to protect it from the north wind, opening onto an exterior courtyard which was used to keep animals, and which would also contain a hypo-style room, an oven and stables. The houses were built with large blocks of stone laid in horizontal courses without any mortar of any kind. In the centre there was an open-air interior courtyard which gave access to the rest of the rooms. The kitchen, with its fireplace, was situated in the courtyard, and the rest of the chambers were bedrooms, usually on the northern side, and spaces for domestic workshops and storage. The fireplace was used for cooking and for heating the north and the northeast rooms, which is why they're usually the bedrooms. The various elements that have been found in the houses show that everyday household work was carried out at home, such as weaving, cooking, grinding and storing food. Control of the territory. From here one can see a magnificent panorama of the whole southern part of the village. Indeed, the view extends as far as the sea, and one may observe the entire southern coast of the central part of Menorca. The choice of this point was not a matter of chance, but rather it was closely related to the importance of the villagers of being able to keep the territory under control. Torre den Garms is only big settlement on the plain between the ravines of Cala en Porta and Desbec. It was sure to have exercised dominion over other smaller settlements in the area. Farming and animal husbandry formed the basis of villagers' livelihood, therefore the control of the territory was essential. The farming families who lived here cultivated different cereals and legumes in the field that would have surrounded the village. Additionally, to raise animals there had to be extensive pastures not far from the town. In the Paleolithic period, the landscape was formed by a natural vegetation that was very similar to that today, mainly consisting of wild olive and mastic trees. Today, the progressive abandonment of the countryside has led to an increase of wild olive woods. Along this route you'll be able to see numerous wild olives which provide shade and supply a very strong wood that is used, for example, for barriers in the Menorcan countryside. first signs of humans living in the settlement of Tordengams were found in burial caves and date back to the pre-Paleolithic period. Solly Cave was possibly one of these caves. It would originally have been a hypogeum, or cave excavated from rock, which was used for burials in the pre-Paleolithic period, but which came to be used for a new purpose many centuries later. This cave's new use was for a mill, for the production of olive oil. Inside the cave, one may still see the mills which were used to crush the olives. These elements suggest that it began to be used as an oil mill in the medieval times, since in prehistoric Menorca the mills were hand operated and used for grinding grain. Oh my god. Wow. Lived in here. That's spooky. If one thing is clear, it is that in a troubled period like the early Middle Ages, the people who inhabited Menorca reoccupied part of the big stone buildings that were still standing, structures which had been constructed by their ancestors many centuries earlier. In many Paleolithic settlements there has been found that caves were excavated in the rock as burial places, while in the medieval period the tombs, that is to say the hollows in which the deceased were placed, were excavated directly into the bedrock, as may be seen in these caves. Very similar excavated tombs may be seen in other Paleolithic sites. Please watch the next clip to find out what I mean. Oh, geez. Here. Wow, that would have been where the tombs were. Wow. The people who lived in this settlement had an economy based on farming and animal husbandry. So on the basis of the excavations carried out in several villages on the island, we know that wheat and barley, among other crops, were cultivated in this period. Sheep and goats were the most widespread animals, although cows and pigs were also raised. The survival of the human community and of its animals depended naturally enough on a year-round water supply, since water is essential to the life of people and animals. So that's why a series of silo pits of different sizes intended to collect rainwater was built in this space. It features a system of ducts that connected the silo pits to each other, allowing the impurities in the water, such as soil and bits of stone, leaves, etc., to be decanted. In this way, the water was gradually filtered before reaching the large cisterns where it is stored for consumption. An interesting feature here is that the cave that appears to have been used in pre-Paleolithic period as a burial place, although it was used to store water in the upper Paleolithic period. I find it really fascinating the way that they built their water systems and how they collected their own water and filtered it. I really do. This fascinated me quite a lot. I'm a bit of a geek like that, so now here sounds a roundhouse that is typical of the final Paleolithic period. The exterior courtyard where you find yourself also formed part of the house and was possibly the place where animals kept. The special thing about this house is that it was hastily abandoned at the end of the 3rd century. The people who were living here then just did not have time to carry off all of their household belongings, and for this reason archaeologists who excavated the house found tools, vessels and ornaments which remained in the place where they'd been left when the dwelling was suddenly abandoned. Another notable find here was of the various human skeletons in the house's central courtyard. Their study has allowed us to determine that the bodies were left exposed in the open air in the same place where the death took place, because the bones showed the tooth marks of carnivores that most likely chewed on them after the people had died. The findings may be related to a violent event, perhaps connected with the Second Punic War, with which the Romans and the Carnivores confronted one another. The Cartalac Dwelling Circle. Now, this is one of the settlement's most spectacular houses. Excavated and restored in 2008, it bears the name of an illustrious French archaeologist, Emile Cartalac, who came into this settlement at the end of the 19th century and described and drew his dwelling. The circle is a house formed by a round main structure, a hyper-style room and an exterior courtyard. It's unquestionably the best conserved example of a house in the final Paleolithic period in all Menorca. The main structure is entered through the only door in the south, giving onto an interior courtyard which contained the fireplace used for cooking and heating the adjacent rooms. The interior courtyard opened onto other rooms in the house. The room in the north was the bedroom, and it still has an elevated platform of compacted earth that was possibly the location of the bed. The northwest room was also a bedroom. The other rooms of the house were for domestic tasks such as weaving, sewing, tool making, grinding grain and so on. In this house you can quite see the level of quality achieved by human groups in their stonemasonry work. The building technique was based on dry stone construction without any use of any kind of mortar. The perfection in which the stone blocks are finished is really impressive. Now, it's hardly surprising that these structures have lasted over 2,000 years, something that was rather unlikely in the case of many more modern, new build buildings. In the course of Menorca's prehistory, caves were used as a funerary space. The wall was built in the entrance to some of these natural caves, and in others the cavity was excavated a little and a passage of stone slabs were added. But we find that a varied typology of burial caves scattered throughout the island. All of these funerary spaces have something in common, though their use for common burials. On the basis of excavations that have been carried out in some burial caves in Menorca, it's believed that prehistoric human groups who lived here had an animist belief that life, in which the rituals of death were related to the conception of earth and nature, were generators of life. In this way, burial was identified with an offering to the Earth Mother, who represented for these communities the origin of fertility and of life. Consequently, when life ended, they had to return it to the Earth Mother, identified in this case with a cave forming a subterranean space. The cave that stands here is possibly used as a funerary space at some time in prehistory, but as in other cases, it was subsequently devoted to other functions. She says, it's not that private. very dark around that corner. And it's very, very steep. I don't know if I can get any light on this. Let's see. Get my light up. Aha, I have light. Oh my god, it's very dark, very steep and very rocky. Oh shit. It's really very warm in here. Which is surprising. Yeah, time to climb back up, I think. This will be fun. I'll have to stop recording. Bang my head. Oh my god. Jesus. We didn't meant to be in here. Whoa. Daylight, that little hole. It's very dark in here. Doesn't look it on video, but it definitely is. I don't know what that is there. Maybe that's something they use for storing water. There is a tomb. Who knows?
Cemetery Municipal de Cittadella.
On the edge of Cittadella, beyond the busy streets of the sunlight of Menorca, lies a place where time moves differently. The silent city of the dead. The Cemetery Municipal di Cittadella. Its gates first opened in 1838. Back then, new laws had banned burials inside churches, forcing the townsfolk to build a resting ground far from the heart of the living. A master builder named Antoni Gracias laid the first stones. And then when the cemetery was blessed, two infants, Maria Berger Pires and Sebastia Mol Literas, were the first to be carried through its gates. These children were only 12 months and 13 months old, and their names still echo through local archives, though their tiny graves have long been lost to time. Over the years, the cemetery expanded. A semicircle of tombs added in 1876, a grand new facade crowned with the Angel of Apocalypse built in 1881. Its wings stretch high above the entrance, as if guarding the souls within or keeping something from escaping. By the early 1900s, a chapel rose among the tombs, modelled on Barcelona's grand burial sites. Marble angels watched from above, and crypts lined the narrow paths, symbols of wealth, sorrow, and the island's faith. But Cittadella was not only Catholic. A smaller civil cemetery nearby was reserved for those of other faiths, and for those who believed in nothing at all. In death, even silence has its divisions. Walk there now and you'll hear more than a sea breeze. The salt air burns against old stone. The wind slips through the iron gates that creak without cause, and the shadows move where no one stands. Names carved into the marble fade like breath on a glass, yet the place feels far from forgotten. Historians call for its restoration. Cracks split in the paths, statues crumble, and wasps have built nests inside hollow-eyed angels. Still, every year, on All Saints' Day, locals return. They light candles, whisper prayers, and wander among the graves as if visiting old friends. Some say, when the sun dips below the walls, voices can still be heard. Faint murmurs carried on the Menorcan wind. More than a cemetery, this is a threshold, a place where the past lingers and the living walk too close to the world beyond. A reminder that in Cittadella, the dead never truly sleep. When myself and my husband visited, it was a blazing hot day. Although there was a bit of a cloud covering the sun, it was still really warm. There was a tiny bit of drizzle, which seemed fitting for where we were going. As we wandered around, amazed at all of the fascinating tombs and all of the mausoleums, we looked along at the headstones and the photographs on the stones of the people who were still there. What made me really think was lovely was some of these tombs were made up of whole families, which made it really feel warm and loving, like they're going to be forever together. Nothing's going to take them apart. That's nice. Although one tomb that we stood outside made me have shivers. And the reason it did this is because I was stood there, I was looking and admiring all the flowers, and suddenly I had the biggest headache and I felt like I was going to fall over. I just felt so dizzy so quickly. So we walked away. As soon as we walked away and we got a little bit further away from that particular tomb, I felt fine again. So what does that say? To me, that says somebody was trying to communicate with me. Because I've had this before, on several occasions, I know what the feeling is. And it's always the same feeling when I'm around gravestones or places where people have long gone, passed on. Now, if you're ever in Menorca, which we highly recommend, do go and visit this cemetery. You won't regret it. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and it's huge. It's very peaceful, and it's a lovely place to see. Hope you've enjoyed it, looking around with me on this video. And if you get a chance, do go see for yourself. Far from the modern streets of Mahon, tucked into the limestone hills of western Menorca, lies one of the island's most ancient and haunting monuments, Naveta de Tudons. This stone tomb, built by the Taliotic people over 3,000 years ago, was never meant for the living. Its walls have held the bones of hundreds of men, women, and children. The air around it carries the weight of millennia, the whispers of a civilization long gone. The Naveta stands silent on a grassy hill, but as you approach, there's a sense that the dead are still watching. Massive stone slabs, perfectly aligned, form a doorway into the earth. Dark, cold, and uninviting, Archaeologists who excavated the site found layers of skeletal remains, carefully placed, evidence of rituals and the care given to honouring the dead. Yet there is something profoundly unsettling about the place. Visitors often speak of a chill that rises from the earth itself, even in the midday sun. The interior of the tomb feels oppressively cold, the silence punctuated only by the faintest echoes of movement that aren't there. It's easy to imagine the teleotic spirits lingering in the shadows, their memories etched into the stone, their presence still guarding the resting place of their ancestors. At dusk, the Navetta becomes even more haunting. The long shadows of the stone stretch across the hill, and the wind whistles through gaps between the ancient slabs. One can almost hear the soft scraping of bones against stone, a murmur of chants from time before written history, and the distant lament of lives once lived. Navetta des Tudons is not just a tomb. It's a silent sentinel of the past, a place where the living feel the weight of the dead, and every visitor leaves with a shiver, knowing that some secrets of Menorca's ancient people will never be fully unearthed. This monument appears in the island's oldest bibliographic works, but it was excavated and restored between 1959 and 1960. Now, because it's so old, the inside of the monument cannot be accessed for reasons for safety and conservation. But please do watch my clip and tell me what you think of what I caught while recording. Teleotic Menorca bears the living witness to the island's exceptional prehistoric history, characterised by cyclopean architecture that's withstood the test of time, seamlessly integrated in with Menorca's landscape. The island is home to some of the most unique constructions in the world, such as Navettas, which are chamber tombs, circular houses, and Trulia sanctuaries built through the Teleotic period. These monuments, together with the Taliots themselves, can be seen in all their splendour in their original environment, and they still boast a unique relationship with the land. These stones were dragged along by people. They're massive. It's huge. Try and get a little bit closer. dark in there. Goes out of focus. Can't go in there, obviously. There's nothing though. Nevetas were collective burial monuments where individuals from the same farming community, family or clan were buried. This tomb was used over an extensive period of time between 1100 and 800 BCE. So successive burials would push previously buried bodies further down, breaking apart the skeletons. Archaeologists have located the remains of more than 100 individuals whose bodies were in complete disarray, with no connections between different parts. Alongside the skeletal remains, personal items buried with them as grave goods were also found, including bracelets, beaded necklaces, and other bronze pendants. Buttons made from bone with V-shaped perforations, stamps, spear tips, as well as a few ceramic bowls and cups that must have been placed there by their relatives. Interestingly though, a bone stopper was also found, decorated with some concentric circles, which indicates the presence of tubes used to contain the hair of the deceased. The Neveta is a unique isolated monument, although some inaccessible burial caves are also found in the surrounding area. It is located on an outcrop of limestone and was constructed using Cyclopean techniques made from large carved stones that were slotted together without the use of mortar, using a small wedge-shaped pieces of stone. The entrance is west-facing, looking towards the setting sun. The monument is built in the shape of an elongated horseshoe, with a straight wall at the front and curved apse. From the outside it resembles an upturned boat, hence its popular name Neveta, meaning a small boat in the Catalanian dialect spoken in Menorca. It has 2 floors. A short corridor leads to the second entrance into the lower chamber. At the top of this corridor there is an opening that leads onto an upper chamber. The middle floor and the roof are both built from huge flat stone slabs that have been carefully carved. Well then, I hope you enjoyed that. I quite enjoyed making this one because of we actually was in every single place that I've done on the video. We was there, so obviously a lot of the videos are things that I've videoed. Well, not a lot of them, every single video I've videoed and recorded myself, and all the photos are all my own. And because we was there and we experienced different things there ourselves, it just made it a bit more fun to make this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Like I say, it was a little bit different because it wasn't murders and it wasn't like, you know, particularly major ghosts and things like that, but it was about like tombs and mausoleums and caves where they were buried people and all them things. I hope you found it interesting and maybe found out some things, because I found out some things while I was there. So yeah, I mean, the first thing I have to say is I apologise to anybody that may be Spanish or talk Spanish, because I can't pronounce things properly. I try my very best, and if I mispronounce things, I'm holding my hands up now. I'm rubbish at pronouncing things. So if I said it wrong, I apologise. Anyway, I yeah, the places and stuff were absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed everything about each and every place that we went to. I found it interesting and educational, and also quite spooky. In different parts was spooky. Like the hospital, I was desperate to go inside because it was daytime and it was right next door to the actual now new hospital, so you can't just go in. It's all board, like fencing around it, so you can't get in unless you climbed over the fence, and you can't do that during the day when there's people milling about everywhere. So we couldn't go in, which is a shame because I would have liked that. That would have been good. But then I don't really fancy getting caught by Spanish police either. Some of the Spanish police are quite fanciable. Anyway, it's another story. Yeah, so I mean, looking out through the fencing and stuff like that, and just looking up at the windows and expecting to see somebody looking down at you any minute, it was kind of like, that was a bit eerie, because that would have been so cool though. So cool. Anyway, there was that. Then the village. Wow, that was something else. The village was amazing. We were just walking around and just feeling like, you're walking through in the footsteps basically of them people all them hundreds of years ago. Amazing. I mean, wow. And the caves where they had the tombs and stuff, it shows how small people were there, not just small that way, but small in height as well, because people were obviously a lot smaller then. And just to see the little tombs and how small they were, and it blew my mind, to be quite honest. It was really fascinating. And the video that I did, it looks really light in the video inside the cave. It was pitch black. We couldn't really see. I mean, I couldn't see around the corner. I was looking through my phone to see where I was going because it was so dark, but it looked really light because my phones these days are clever, aren't they? They brighten things up and make it look brighter than these. But trust me, it was dark, very dark. And if something had come and chased us at that moment, it wouldn't have been easy to get out of either, because it was so steep and it was all rocky, so you kind of had to climb it. Oh, it was a mission, but it was worth it. It was good. It was really good. As was the cemetery. The cemetery, I mean, I've not seen a cemetery that big before. It was absolutely humongous. There was 3 stages to it, if you like. You kind of went into, and you saw on my video how big one part of it was, with all the tombs all the way around the outside, or the mausoleums, or whatever you want to call them, around the outside. And then in the middle was just full of gravestones. And I don't know if they, I think that because they, like, on the floor there was like almost like a grate, like a lid, if you like, which I'm assuming people were down under there, and maybe they had ashes and stuff because it was concrete a lot of the places. But they were families, all, each sort of section had families, and I found that like quite heartwarming, really, in a sense, meaning that they're never going to be separated because they're always going to be together. And I thought that was quite nice. But yeah, there was like the sensation of the feeling I got when we was walking around, and we was just looking, I was taking photos, and we was admiring how well kept the place was as a whole. And as we was doing that, we sort of stood still outside one of the sort of, I don't know what to call it, like a tomb, a mausoleum probably. I think I'm saying that right. And we stood outside one, which again, they have families in them. And I just, all of a sudden, I just come over like, as if I was going to pass out. I just thought, oh my God, I just went really lightheaded, and I said to my husband, oh my God, I don't feel very well. I feel a bit faint, and I feel like I'm going to fall over. And again, within seconds, I just had a really, really big headache come on. So he said, come on, let's walk away. So we kind of walked away from the area and walked further away, into another part, and weirdly, almost immediately, it all sort of lifted again when I felt fine again, which is weird. And I think that's because I do personally believe that, I don't know, because I've had it so many times, different occasions, different places, I sort of believe that that's almost like somebody trying to communicate with me, someone's trying to talk to me, and I find it fascinating and great, because I'm very open. My mind's very open to everything like that, and I've been through and experienced so many different things over the years. If you haven't seen, I've got a video on when I lived in my house was haunted, and I experienced so many things. So if you've seen it, look back, and you'll find my video on it. I might even put a link to it in the description in case you want to have a look. But yeah, I'm just so sort of susceptible to all of them sort of things that it doesn't surprise me, really, to be fair. And it's the same feeling that I had only a few weeks ago at Bewley Abbey. Exactly the same feeling. So yeah, it was weird, very weird, but it was, again, the place itself was absolutely beautiful, so well looked after, so peaceful, even though you're on a main road, because the actual cemetery was literally on a main road. There was a bus sort of station outside, and yet it was so peaceful. It was like you could hear cars gently going past, but it still felt peaceful, so if you was going to visit a grave, you could still do that in relative peace. So it was quite nice. So yeah, I just found it a little bit weird, the eerie sort of weirdness feeling I got. And then, well, the last one, Navetta de Tudon, honestly, that place fascinated me so much. Although it was a building that they had built themselves, the people that built that did that. They put all the boulders they carried themselves, or they used like logs to roll them along to get them to, and then they put them on and stacked them up, and they made the whole place themselves, which amazes me these days, because obviously so many things, you can get a house built in 5 seconds flat these days, but that's because they're so badly made, whereas that's been stood for hundreds of years and it's still so solid and so strong. And obviously they've put the metal sort of bars on, so nobody can get inside anymore, because obviously, health and safety, and obviously because they want to preserve it, which is great, But what I found uber fascinating about that place was the fact that when I was recording, I didn't see anything that was going on in the camera, and I didn't hear any footsteps. Yet on the recording, when I watched it back, I saw the fogginess and stuff, but when I was watching it on my phone, I saw the fogginess and whatnot, but I didn't hear the footsteps, really. It weren't until I put it on my computer and I put my earphones in and I was like properly editing it, I was just like, oh my god, there's footsteps. And at that point, you see, it was just me and my husband. There was nobody else around, and there is a car park. So you park in the car park and you walk to this little sort of like hut, and you pay, get your ticket, whatever, and you've got to walk quite a way up, and it's just fields and countryside, and you walk a way up this path, and then it's sort of in its own, which I showed you on the video, it's on its own little bit, and there's nothing really around it, just fields. And then when we walked up, there was a few people milling about. When I first walked around, like when I walked around the whole thing and did filming, there was a few people, like, there was a couple of people, but they were leaving, they were gone. And the whole outside of that actual building was rocks, like rocks. Basically, there was no sort of flat concrete, and there was no pavement as such. It was just rocks and sand type stuff. So it had a different sound when you walked on it, if that makes sense. So it wasn't, I can't put it down to someone else walking around, because firstly there wasn't anyone else walking around. It was just me and my husband. I was crouched down because it was very low down, this little tiny door, and I was crouched down filming in the door, and he was stood dead still behind me, so it wasn't him moving around. There was nobody else there. So the sound itself, if you watch back, the sound itself sounds like somebody walking on pavement, and obviously inside it was I'm assuming like the rock type concrete inside, and it literally sounded like somebody walking around in there, and the echoes and the, I don't know, what did you think? That's what I think. I didn't hear it at the time when I was recording. I couldn't hear that. So it must have been fairly quiet for me not to be able to hear that physically, if that makes sense. But I don't know, it's just so bizarre. It blew my head a bit, must admit. It did blow my mind a bit, because I did 2 bits of recording in there, and the first time I recorded there was no sounds. Oh, okay, hang on a moment. My camera just had a moment. Oh, wow, okay, now we've gone all blurry, so bear with me while I'll try and sort this out. What is going on? Okay, we had a moment. The camera fell over, because where I've got it on camera at the moment, it's just sort of balancing at the minute, because I have a new thing on my desk which has raised my monitor up higher, which is good for me to look at, but obviously if the camera's on top of it, it's too high up and I'm not looking right there. So yeah, it's balanced, it's not ideal. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found it a bit entertaining, and also, you know, you might have learnt something and stuff like that. So yeah, next video I'm going to do is a Halloween video. So on Halloween I will be putting a video out. Hope you like my nails, by the way. I hope you can see them. Halloween nails. Yeah, I will be doing a video for Halloween, so that'll be on Friday 2 this week. Not sure if you're lucky for that or unlucky, but 2 videos this week. So yeah, Friday, look out for my Halloween special video. Anyway, I've waffled on for how long now? God only knows. Long enough. So I think I better get off, and I'll see you on Friday. Have yourself a great rest of your day, and do let me know in the comments what you thought of this whole video today. I'll be really interested to see what you thought. So anyway, enjoy your day, and I'll see you again on Friday. Take care. Ta, bye bye.